If you're moving to San Antonio with your family, one of the hardest decisions isn't necessarily which house to buy. Figuring out which part of San Antonio actually fits the way your family lives. Because living in Stone Oak feels completely different from living in Helotes. Helotes feels completely different from Bulverde. And one of the areas I'm going to show you today is probably not even on your radar yet. So today, I'm breaking down 6 San Antonio suburbs and suburban areas I think the relocation family should know about before they start looking at houses. I'm going to tell you what I like about each one, who I think it works best for, and most importantly, the trade-offs you need to know before moving there. And if you stay with me, because the last one is probably the most overlooked suburb in this entire list. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Phyllis Domingo. I've lived in San Antonio for more than 20 years and I help families relocate to San Antonio from all over the country. Every week I share honest videos about moving to San Antonio, Texas, living in San Antonio, Texas, San Antonio real estate, neighborhoods, schools, cost of living, and everything I think you should know before making your move. So let's get into it. Let's start with Stone Oak. And technically, Stone Oak is part of San Antonio, but if you're researching San Antonio suburbs online, you're going to see Stone Oak come up over and over again. There's a reason for that. Stone Oak is one of the areas I would look at if convenience is high on your priority list. You've got grocery stores, restaurants, medical offices, shopping, gyms, activities, and pretty much everything you need within a relatively small area. You're also not far from areas like the Rim and Block and Terra, when you want even more shopping, restaurants, and entertainment. And that's one of the biggest advantages of living here. You don't necessarily have to drive across San Antonio every time you need something. There are also a lot of established neighborhoods in Stone Oak, so depending on what you're looking for, you'll find everything from smaller homes to larger properties and gated communities. Now, here's a trade-off. Stone Oak is busy. Traffic along some of the main roads can get congested, especially around school drop-off, pickup, and rush hour. So if you're moving to San Antonio because you're dreaming about the quiet hill country living and wide open spaces, Stone Oak may not give you that feeling. But if you want to be close to restaurants, shopping, medical care, and everyday conveniences, Stone Oak absolutely deserves to be on your list. And for schools, always research the exact property address and attendance zone because boundaries and assignments can vary from neighborhood to neighborhood. Next is Helotes, on the northwest side of San Antonio. Helotes is interesting because you can be relatively close to San Antonio but still get that smaller town feeling. One of my favorite parts is Old Town Helotes. You've got local restaurants, businesses, community events, and places like Floor's Country Store that gives Helotes its own personality. It doesn't just feel like another collection of subdivisions, and once you start driving further outside the center of Helotes, you'll also notice more mature trees, larger lots, and properties that feel a little more spread out. So I think Helotes works especially well for someone who likes being near San Antonio but doesn't necessarily want to feel like they're right in the middle of the city. But here's something you need to think about. When there are road traffic, where you work and what time you commute can make a big difference in how you feel about living here. That's why when I'm helping someone to relocate, I don't just look at the house. We talk about where you're going to work, where you're going to spend most of your time, and what your normal weekday is actually going to look like. Because a beautiful house isn't nearly as beautiful when you hate your commute every day. Number 3 is Fair Oaks Ranch. If you're moving to the San Antonio area because you're looking for more space and more of that Texas Hill Country setting, this is one I would take a look at. Fair Oaks Ranch feels very different from Stone Oak. You'll see more established homes, mature trees, larger properties, and areas surrounding the golf course. It tends to feel quieter and more residential, and you're still within reach of San Antonio when you need the city. But this is where I want relocating buyers to slow down. Don't just look at the list price of the house. Depending on the property and community you're considering, you may have HOA dues or other costs associated with the home. If you're interested in golf or country club amenities, those costs should also be researched separately. This is something I talk about a lot in this channel. When you're comparing homes, compare the real monthly cost of living there, not just the purchase price. Fair Oaks Ranch can be a beautiful option, especially if you want a quieter hill country setting setting, but go into it knowing your complete numbers. Now, let's go further out to Bulverde. Bulverde is for the buyer who keeps telling me, Phyllis, I want space. If that sounds like you, this is where things start getting interesting. Compared with the areas closer to central San Antonio, Bulverde can give you the much more of that rural hill country atmosphere. You'll see larger lots, acreage properties, winding roads, and neighborhoods where homes aren't necessarily packed right next to each other. For somebody moving from a dense city or even California who has always wanted a little more breathing room, I completely understand the appeal. But you're making a trade. You're farther away from parts of San Antonio. You're probably going to drive more, and you're not choosing Bulverde because you want to walk out your front door and have restaurants and shopping centers everywhere. You're choosing it because you want space, quiet, and hill country living. So ask yourself this: would you rather have a shorter drive and a more convenience, or would you happily drive farther if it meant coming home to a more land and more privacy? Your answer will tell you very quickly whether Bulverde belongs on your list. Now let's completely change directions and head over to the northeast side of San Antonio. Number 5 is Cibolo. I wanted Cibolo in this video because I don't want every suburb on this list clustered around the same side of San Antonio. If your job, family, or lifestyle takes you towards the northeast side, Cibolo is absolutely an area worth researching. You'll find established neighborhoods as well as newer development, an area that many relocating buyers consider when they want suburban living while still having access back into San Antonio. You're also near Schertz, so there are plenty of everyday conveniences, restaurants, and shopping nearby. And for military relocations, this side of the metro can also make sense depending on where you're stationed. But here's the trade-off I would pay attention to: I-35. Traffic along the northeast corridor is something you need to consider when you're deciding whether Cibolo works for you. If you're commuting every day, map that commute during the actual hours you're going to be driving it. Do not look at Google Maps at 10 o'clock at night and assume that's your commute. I always tell relocating clients that your commute should be part of your home search from the beginning, not something you figure out after you've already fallen in love with a house. And now we get to the one I told you at the beginning might surprise you. Castroville is west of San Antonio, and I think it gets overlooked because a lot of people relocating here simply don't know much about it. Castroville has a completely different personality from somewhere like Stone Oak. It's a historic Texas town with Alsatian heritage, unique architecture, and a small downtown that actually feels like a small downtown. You come here because you like character, you like a slower pace, and you might want something that feels different from a typical newer suburban neighborhood. You'll also find both older homes and newer development in and around the area, which makes Castroville interesting for buyers who want options. The biggest consideration is obviously location. If your job requires you to be on the opposite side of San Antonio every day, Castroville probably isn't going to make sense. But if your commute works and you like the west side, I think it's one of those places you should actually drive through before crossing it off your list. So let's put these 6 together. Stone Oak if convenience and being close to everything are important to you. Helotes if you want a smaller town atmosphere while still being close to San Antonio. Fair Oaks Ranch if you're looking for a quieter hill country environment and more space. Bulverde if land, privacy, and a more rural lifestyle are higher priorities. Cibolo if the northeast side makes sense for your commute and if you want suburban living outside Central City. And Castroville if you want character, history, and something a little different from the typical San Antonio suburb. And I want you to notice something. I didn't tell you which one is the best because there really isn't one suburb that's best for everybody. The right location depends on your commute, your budget, the type of home you want, how much space you need, and what you want your everyday life to look like. That's the part of relocating that Zillow can't figure out for you. And that's exactly what I help my clients work through. If you're moving to San Antonio and you're trying to figure out which areas make the best or the most sense for you, reach out to me and tell me what you're looking for, where you're going to work, what your priorities are, and what your budget looks like, and I can help you narrow down your search before you spend an entire weekend driving all over San Antonio. If you're thinking about moving to San Antonio, Texas, and want to know what your budget can realistically buy, I would love to help. My contact information is in the description below, and if you are serious about relocating to San Antonio, Texas, make sure you subscribe because every week I share honest videos about San Antonio real estate estate, neighborhood, new construction, homes, cost of living, schools, and everything you should know before making your move. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.